Welcome to the Audio Inc. Radio podcast, featuring interviews with the biggest names in rock and metal, hosted by Anne Erickson.
Get inked. Visit Facebook.com/Audio Inc. Radio, Twitter.com/Audio Inc. Radio, and AudioIncRadio.com for more ink.
When I think of fun music, just super fun, high energy, forget all your problems, wild, crazy music, I think of Warrant. I think of Cherry Pie. What a great record, and it's hard to believe, but that record turns 30 years old in less than a month. Yeah, 3 decades old. September 11th, 1990. That's when Warrant unleashed Cherry Pie to the world, and that track is still a staple on rock radio pretty much everywhere, right? I mean, I hear Cherry Pie all the time, and it's just a fun, down and dirty rock track in the vein of what real rock and roll should be. So needless to say, it's a big deal that this record is going to be 30 years old. The guys of Warrant, they had planned to do a major tour to celebrate that milestone, that anniversary, but of course, bam, coronavirus hit this year and they had to postpone pretty much all of those tour dates on their 30th anniversary Cherry Pie tour. But hey, the good news is that they are going to do this tour. Not sure when, not sure the dates or how that's going to work because coronavirus, no one knows when traditional shows will be back. But when they're back, you are going to get that tour from Warrant. I'm Anne Erickson. It's awesome to rock with you. And for a minute, I'm going to reminisce about the first time that I saw Warrant in concert, because I remember it was when I was first going to see shows. I was a concert newbie, for lack of a better term, but my cousin, he was big into 80s hair metal. And I know some people don't like that term, hair metal, but whatever you want to call that 80s hard rock and metal music, he was a huge fan. So he said, Anne, I want to take you to see this 80s show at Pine Knob, which was out in the Detroit area, just a big amphitheater. It's called DTE now, but he and his buddies were going, and I went. I had never even heard of Warrant, of any of the bands on the bill, but the lineup was Warrant, LA Guns, and Rat. This was after the whole 80s era had ended. I mean, this was probably early 2000s, I want to say, somewhere around that. But I went and I had the best time ever. Just fun, great music, and just had a blast. It was a great concert memory. So I will never forget that show. And when I think about Warrant, LA Guns, Rat, that tour, I do think about how it just made you forget everything going on in your life, all the bad stuff happening, and for a night you just rocked with the music. That being said, I've got a great guest, Robert Mason from Warrant. He, of course, has a long history with Warrant because he toured with them back in the 80s in Lynch Mob. Now he is the lead vocalist of Warrant, and he really carries on that legacy that Lane built with the band. Robert is amazing on stage. I've seen the guys of Warrant perform just a few years ago, actually, and they have so much energy and charisma. Robert is a huge part of that, and it's really great to see how he's carrying on that legacy and performing all these tracks that we all know and love. So great to have Robert on the show. He's going to be an amazing guest. I can feel it in my bones. Hey, don't forget to please subscribe if you have not yet. What are you waiting for? I promise it'll be worth your while. Subscribe on wherever really you rock out to podcast. Just search Audio Inc. Radio. Plus, please leave a 5-star review. Don't forget to also hook up with me on social media. I'm online pretty much all the time and would love to hear from you. Hit me up on Facebook at itsmeanne.com, Twitter and Snapchat at Anne Erickson, Instagram and TikTok at Erickson Anne. Let's do it. Robert from Warrant.
Hey, this is Robert Mason from the band Warrant and the band The End Machine, and you are listening to Anne Erickson on Audio Inc. Radio.
Awesome. Well, it's great to talk with you, and it's been, a crazy year. So how are you doing?
Doing all right, as well as could be expected. Everybody's going through stuff, some worse than others. I consider myself pretty fortunate in a lot of ways, except for the fact that doing my job, which involves gathering a few thousand people together, close together, and making them have fun, is not allowed right now. So, yeah, in that respect, I guess things are not going so great this year for us. But we played our last show towards the end of February, and we're looking forward to having some in the fourth quarter. Honestly, I'm cautiously optimistic through the whole thing, and we've had such great years. 2019 was such a great year for us that in a lot of ways we're still on the optimistic high from that as a band, as far as Warrant goes. We also, we put an End Machine record out last year, and we're working on the second one right now. So I have things to keep me busy. It's just not going and getting on airplanes and going and playing live shows in front of a lot of people. That's the bummer about this, but there are people that have it far worse off. So I've been volunteering when I can, hanging in, doing all the things you're supposed to do. And yeah, I would love to not get sick. I have been COVID virus free so far, knock on wood, and everything else I can find. But I have people, friends and family, that have been through it, and some have passed away, and some came through it absolutely fine. So it's a very weird time.
Wow. You mentioned that you might actually do some shows fourth quarter. Do you think that that's a possibility? We
are just told by our agent kind of on an ongoing basis if shows are holding, if states are, in which the shows are allowing any sort of our sort of behavior, big loud rock shows, distanced, safe, everybody taking precautions, plexiglass everywhere, I don't know, whatever they're going to do. Honestly, we've just been sitting back and waiting. I have friends like ours and other bands that had a huge touring year. They were actually planning on taking this year off. So, it works out okay for them. We have 1990, was when Cherry Pie came out. So this is the 30th anniversary year. The record was released in September. So next month starts the very beginning of the 30th anniversary Cherry Pie tour. So we had a big deal planned for this year. A whole bunch of shows, all new staging, a totally revamped set list, obviously playing a lot of the songs from that record in order intact except for certain ones. So the record starts with Cherry Pie. I don't know if we could start with that song and then say thank you, good night. I don't know if that would work very well.
Or play it twice.
Sure, why not? Let's play it 4 times. What the heck? Now, let's do it in German. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's so great. It is the 30th anniversary of Cherry Pie. And is that tour moved to next year then?
Pretty much. I mean, honestly, the first time around, the Cherry Pie tour took a year and a half or more. So it was a big record for the band. And, I was at a lot of those shows. And then subsequently in Lynch Mob opening up for Warrant on the Doggy Dog tour in 92, 93. So, yeah, those songs a lot of them have stood the test of time. They're nostalgic to a lot of people. Those songs reemerge in films and commercials and video games and all that stuff. So they live a second life, so to speak. And since 2019 was the 30th anniversary of the Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinkin' Rich record, the band's first record, that tour went really, really well. So we figured, okay, let's follow it with, 30th Cherry Pie tour.
Well, yeah.
We're very, like I said, we're very optimistic. I'll tell you what, no matter what, we're going to make up for all the lost time once we can get back to doing it. It will, trust me, it'll be the 30th anniversary Cherry Pie sometime.
Awesome. Yeah, well, when you get on stage and perform those songs, describe the energy that you get from the crowd, because I know you weren't with Warrant, when the first Cherry Pie record came out and everything, but I know you've been playing those songs for so long and you've helped them have that legacy.
Honestly, over the past almost 13 years, every time you perform a song that you honestly do. I'm relatively spiritual. I'm relatively, but I'm not super tree hugging, crystal carrying, all that kind of stuff. I'm not to disparage anybody, but there is one thing that I know to be true, and that is on stage, the energy of the audience absolutely fuels you. And if I've been on 4 airplanes and, crap weather and delays and blah, 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 and you're that's the downside of doing what we do, or travel. And once you get there, all of that just melts away, and the hour and change that you get to spend on stage doing what hopefully makes people happy is the absolute payoff. It's the best thing in the world. And the most immense part of that is the audience. If they've got energy, it reignites you, and it, like you said, it fortifies you to go, louder, harder, faster. See what I did there?
I love it. What do you think it is about Cherry Pie that makes it such a classic?
It's big power chords. It's simple melody and lyrics. And, come on, it's about sex. Well, that's what rock and roll is slang for anyway. It's how it all started. It's one of those songs that just ended up connecting with so many people. And it was the time, too. You have to remember, that was, like, look at it. It's 30 years ago. Look at what the world was like. Look at what communication was like. Look at what MTV was like. A lot hinged. That generation that really latched onto that, all that late 80s, early 90s music, caught, like, maybe it was the last real good gasp of what people call hair metal or LA or what Sunset Strip stuff, all those silly words that everybody likes to label you with. It was kind of nearing to the end of that before it sort of imploded upon itself, and I think it was an amazing time. Those songs are about good times and happy and celebration and all of that, rather than moody, depressing, introspective, world is awful, stare at my shoes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of those performers. I never was, no matter what the subject matter. Mm-hmm. And all that stuff was still going on then. And if you lived through it the first time, with the way the world is, maybe it makes you at times nostalgic for that sort of feeling. And I think that's the majority of the connection. I can get everybody in the crowd to sing along with that one. Or at least, I think I can.
Yeah, it's just a fun song,
Well, yeah, and that was the thing. It was about having a good time and about fun and about all of that. So, what would you rather remember? Something happy or something sad?
Right. When you take to the stage with that track, how do you do it justice and at the same time make it your own?
It's not up to me. How do I do it justice? That's up to everybody else. Opinions vary. I'm just thankful that fans embraced me coming into this band when Lane no longer could. And, he even made his peace with it. He and I were really good friends when we were making Lynch Mob record in 91 and 92, and they were making Dog Eat Dog. We got to be friends, and that was the reason why my band ended up supporting his band, kind of thing. I just do those songs the best justice I possibly can, and I truly do enjoy my job. I think, I was a fan first, so that probably helps. I was a fan and a friend, so I want to see that legacy continue. People want to see it. As long as people want to see it, we'll keep doing it. As soon as we're allowed to.
Yeah, and I do think that you guys, carry on that legacy of Lane and all that stuff. So people did also really embrace you when you joined the band, which must have felt really good.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm aware of what I do well, and I truly do enjoy performing. And not just singing, but performing for a live audience. I love that. And it goes back to that, topic before about the energy, is I'm going to sweat and probably bleed up there, and that's where I get my greatest enjoyment, is being on my side of a microphone, screaming in it, and having people on the other side enjoying themselves on the other side of it. Honestly, it's the best job in the world for me. I feel like I hopefully make people happy, make them think, make them not think, make them forget their troubles. You're not hurting anybody, and you're carrying on. Those songs are so well written. Lane was such a great songwriter, and he had that window where he could do no wrong and just turned out some amazing songs, and they deserve to be played.
Oh, absolutely. So whatever happened to the girl on the cover of Cherry Pie? Do you have any idea?
The model that posed in the roller skates.
Yes.
I don't know. I remember somebody saying, I think I met her once. I remember somebody saying the girl that they used and then did the drawing, she was not so psyched. Like maybe, you know how a model gets a job and she's like, well, I really like dance music. What is it? Oh, it's for a rock band? I mean, you know, so she looks good as a candy striper in roller skates or whatever, and then she's used, and she's this iconic figure that ends up being immortalized on an album cover that sells a boatload of copies. And I want to remember that the guys said that at the time, I don't know whether she stood for, you know, like an artist rendering, or whether it was just a photo shoot that they then made more like a drawing, like a cartoon.
Right.
But I have no idea what happened to her. I remember hearing something to the effect of it was not her happiest moment. Maybe she wasn't the hugest Warrant fan. It was just a job for her. But she did a damn fine job wherever she is, and, you know, everyone will forever know that girl.
Right. That is so funny. Isn't that always the case, that the person who's doing it, they're like, oh, who? What band? Like the one person.
I want to remember that was the situation. I don't know the details correctly. Maybe Eric knows the details better than I do. Eric and Joey tend to remember all that stuff, like down to a T, but you hear all the stories. I do have, what's really funny is, we had fans that worked at a bowling alley somewhere, and they hand painted a bowling pin with the Cherry Pie logos and artwork, but did a real caricaturish, almost anime version of the Cherry Pie Girl, and it is amazing. And they gave it to me at the show at a meet and greet. They brought it for me.
Wow.
And I mean, I just took it for a spin around my piano room. I mean, it is a bookend in my music room.
That is so cool. That must be like the best fan gift ever. That is so great.
They never cease to surprise you. Seriously.
I was thinking of being that girl for Halloween. I was trying to think of, you know, a unique type of costume. So I don't know. I might try that. I don't know if you've seen a bunch of Halloween.
Because, you know, back in the time, everybody went for the video Cherry Pie Girl look kind of thing rather than the album cover. And I prefer the album cover one, to be honest with you.
Awesome.
So good on you.
Thank you. I'll do it. Hopefully no one's listening.
If we play a Halloween gig within a few hundred miles, I expect to see it. And it's like, see, I did it.
Awesome. We'll do. Yeah, fingers crossed that Halloween even happens, right, this year. Oh, my gosh.
Well,
So
Halloween's, you know, it's a couple of months away. Maybe we can make that happen.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
hoping. Like I said, we're optimistic for it. And honestly, no matter when we get to start, we're just going to be, as every fan will be, I'm sure, just chomping at the bit to go bananas at shows.
Yeah, I think that fans are just going through such terrible withdrawals right now. They're going to be so happy when music is back.
Well, we're going to make it worth their while.
Awesome.
It will definitely be worth the price of admission, I promise.
Well, what else have you guys been up to in quarantine this year? Are you working on new music?
Well, the End Machine's writing a new record, so going to do the second one of those. I've got a bunch of music from Jeff and George that I need to finish a bunch of melodies and lyrics on, because that's our deal. Those guys just write a boatload of music and then send it over to me. You know, the good part about technology is everybody's got a studio in their house, and you can do all of this virtually if you choose to. I still really like getting in a room with a band and push and pull of hearing the instruments, you know, at volume, or at least working on things together. I'm a better catalyst for that sort of thing, for songwriting, than I am just a solo writer. I don't fancy myself that guy at all, but you're kind of forced into doing it. So the way we did the last record was a little different than this one, but we're churning that out. I go through periods of inspiration or lack thereof as far as writing goes, so having a bunch of idle time at home, you know, and kind of forced off the road, I don't get those quiet hours on airplanes and in hotel rooms, but I do have some time at home. So, yeah, I mean, I always sort of write, but I just go through hot and cool periods of it.
The End Machine? Are you guys working on new stuff, you said?
We're doing our second record right now. We're basically going through the writing and arranging process right now, and we'll record later this year, early next year, and then it should probably be out by next summer.
Awesome.
Yeah, we were very happy to do that. You know, George and Jeff and I have a certain chemistry. I think we may try to tap into a little bit more of the Dokken feel and idea, not to make it dated sounding, but a modern, maybe a modern interpretation of that, or maybe just tap into. I don't think we did that as much for the last record, and that's an undeniable huge component, of those guys' lives. So, not to rehash it, but I'm a Dokken fan. So, having those guys as friends and bandmates, I'm like, well, there are certain little things about the Dokken formula that are indelibly Jeff Pilson and George Lynch, musically. So why not make that a bigger part of the End Machine sound? Or at least try to. Yeah, it's still going to end up sounding like us because clearly my name's not Don Dokken. So.
No, that's awesome, though. Can't wait to hear it. What about Warrant? Are you guys working on a follow-up yet to Louder, Harder, Faster?
Sort of casually. We're really not on a schedule to record a new record. We really, really wanted to come off the 2019 Dirty Rotten 30-year anniversary and go right into the Cherry Pie 30-year anniversary and really concentrate on that, such that we really put making a new record sort of on the back burner for a while.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. With this time this year, maybe I was hoping that you guys were working on some new stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, that's with Warren. We live in a bunch of different states. Plus, we're not getting together anyway because we're, separated from each other by mandate. So, but the riffs are still flowing. The ideas are still there. There's a few here and there floating around. It's not enough to put a full record together yet, but that's what the process is about. We're not in a rush to put a record out just to have something to say to sell. I'd rather do the Cherry Pie anniversary tour proper service by going out there and saying, wow, thank you so much for allowing this to last 30 years.
What about a drive-in show? Would you ever consider doing a drive-in concert?
Absolutely. I've heard the drive-in shows, a few around the country. Golf courses, they're doing distanced golf course shows. Man, at this point, whatever promoters can come up with that's going to work, that keeps everybody safe, that we can do. Politics aside, we just want to go and play rock shows. All the craziness that's going on in this country right now, I'd rather just say, if some promoter has the ingenuity to put this together and can make it so people can obviously stay healthy, then I'm on board.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Based on what you're hearing in the industry, do you have any idea when traditional mosh pit type concerts might be back, like big shows?
That, I believe, probably, and depends upon people being able to actually be safe around each other and not worry about infection. And
right.
That's, I'm no doctor, so that's the joke goes. But yeah, I mean, I have friends in some high places, in organizations and that sort of thing, that tell me the same thing they tell everybody else. I don't have any secret information, but I figure it's going to take till people trust that they can hang around in close proximity without catching anything from anybody. And, you have to trust where everybody has ever been, and everybody that they touched has been, and everybody that they were around has been. And, it's really about everybody, not just the individual, and, not being selfish. And you see what happens when people mistakenly get told by their government, sure, we can open up bars and restaurants, and then, hey, it's over, everything's over, and they hang out like nothing ever happened. Then all of a sudden everybody gets this virus. You're like, well, what does that tell you? I don't mean to, like I said, I'm not disparaging anybody. Everybody wants out. Everybody wants normal. But you can't force normal upon everybody all at once, or else, I mean, it's different philosophies, different ideologies, everything like that. I have a really strong immune system. I'm not going to tempt fate. I use my lungs for my living. If this thing attacks my lungs, no fun.
Right.
I've heard it's no fun. I've had friends that lived through it tell me it's no joke and no fun. I have doctors, friends that work at hospitals, people that work at the CDC tell me all sorts of stuff. But, I think we're for now, until there's maybe a vaccine or they have enough therapies plus vaccines that they say work, all those tests, I watch the news like everybody else. We wait with bated breath.
That's a good point about being a singer too, because I know of a few singers who've gotten it, and it's a different kind of thing when you're a singer, the lungs thing, the breathing thing, because obviously it takes you have to have good lungs for that. So I think that you're smart to play it safe.
Well, I mean, I have friends in the same boat as me that are absolutely terrified, quite frankly, because either they're a little older or they have, asthma or a pre-existing condition of some sort, as the doctors say, that makes it way more risky to catch this. I mean, I work out every day, but I'm in my 50s, and, you just sit there and go, okay, I'm not 20 and bulletproof like I used to be. The thing, I couldn't spend the whole night out partying and then show up late for the gig and roll on and do a great job. Like, I watch what I eat, I take care of myself, I exercise, I try to stay healthy. So, do I think I stand a pretty good chance? Yeah, I do, but why risk it right now?
Right.
When they just don't know. And like I said, attach your lungs? I need those. No thanks.
Definitely. Well, you mentioned, I know you work with George Lynch a lot, and I wondered if you heard that he's going to change that Lynch Mob name after this new, album comes out, and if you have any thoughts on that.
I was lucky enough, fortunate enough, and I think happy at the time to be in Lynch Mob in the very, very early 90s when we had the stereotypical monstrous record deal and all the radio support and all the, playing arenas, supporting Warrant, playing sold out shows, making records for major labels. Like, that's when I was in Lynch Mob. Now, we sort of legally relinquished the name back to George wholly and fully years and years ago, and it's his last name. It's what, we've all moved on. He does what he wants. That's great, honestly. I mean, yeah, there have been a lot of members of that band, but that's sort of what it turned into for him, a revolving door thing that just showcased that. And, we all remain friends. Oni and I are actually friends. I think he's great. He does his, I do mine. I ended up in a different place. If Lynch Mob is no more as a band and George wants to move on, then that's his choice to decide. No, I have no bitterness or ill will. I'm a pretty happy guy.
Well, he said that he would probably play with the same people. It's just the name.
Well, he made it a political thing, and look, I understand it, but I remember somebody saying something to me 25 years ago about the name, almost 30 years ago about the name. And I was born in New York and was raised in the New York metro area, New York, New Jersey, then Pennsylvania, then Connecticut, and Delaware, grew up in that whole area. I fully understand the PC nature of anybody's criticism, but it was the guy's last name. I grew up around all sorts of people. Here's the bottom line. I don't believe there are good and bad colors or religions or any of that. I believe there are good and bad people. Mm-hmm. And I don't judge people by those criteria. I just don't. And I never did, and I wasn't raised that way. But I'm also not dumb. I realize, the implication of the name and how everything has become unbelievably scrutinized, such that if George made that, that's on him, and that's totally cool by me.
Well, this has been great. Is there anything else that you want to add?
If you could just be so kind as to, pimp out all of our social media everywhere that this is put. I'm sure you...
Yeah.
It's all about Warrant Rocks, on all that. All my personal stuff is Robert Mason Vox, VOX. Mm-hmm. And that's on all the usual social media suspects. And we also have the End Machine all over, I'm sure. I don't know. I don't handle all that stuff, but somebody does.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll definitely put all your socials up, and I'll tag you and everything when this goes up. So
sounds great.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Stay safe, and hopefully we'll get to rock with you next year, maybe for that anniversary tour.
Looking forward to it.
There he is, Robert from Warrant. Thanks for being an incredible guest on my show, and very happy to hear that. You can just tell listening to him, he is determined to get back out there on the road. He's going to make it happen. He says that no matter when it happens, Warrant will be doing that Cherry Pie 30th anniversary tour. So, hey, I say I don't care when it is or where it is. I'm going to be there. I'm going to check out that show because what a fun record. And I think it will be really cool to hear the guys perform it pretty much from front to back with a few minor changes. And I think it's cool that he liked my idea of being the chick on the front of the Cherry Pie album cover for Halloween. Although I don't have red hair, I've got much longer hair than this chick. Maybe I'd have to get a wig or something, which I'm not big on wigs for Halloween personally. So I don't know. It's just an idea. Who knows if Halloween will even happen? I mean, my fingers are crossed. No matter what, you can just dress up at your own place as whatever, and yay, that's Halloween. But that's a whole other story. Once again, thank you, Robert, for being an awesome guest. Looking forward to eventually new music from Warrant after everything is wrapped up, all the touring for the Cherry Pie anniversary and stuff like that. And it sounds like he's got a lot of other really cool things like the End Machine. Very cool to hear that that band is working on new music. And next year, hopefully, new stuff from them. So plenty to look forward to when it comes to the Robert Mason camp. I'm Anne Erickson. As always, it's awesome to hang out with you and rock with you here on the podcast. It's been a crazy year. I mean, it doesn't get any weirder than this year where you aren't allowed to go to concerts. And as music people, you and me, it's just not cool, but very cool that we get to rock out here together on the podcast on a regular basis. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button. Search Audio Inc. Radio wherever you rock out to podcast. We're pretty much everywhere right now. So wherever you listen, you can find Audio Inc. And once again, hit me up on social media. If there's a guest that you think would be great for the podcast, let me know. I would love to try to hook it up. Facebook at itsmeanne.com, Twitter and Snapchat at Anne Erickson, Instagram and TikTok at Erickson Anne. Lots of amazing guests on the way. We've already had some incredible guests this year, but I've got one in particular that's going to be a big surprise for you. I mean, I'll probably tell you before the interview is up, but I'm going to tease it just a bit because it's one of my favorite musicians, and I have a feeling that if you listen to this podcast on a regular basis, and if you like the kind of music that we talk about, you are going to love this interview. But one final thing, don't forget to check out my band Upon Wings at uponwings.com. We've got some new stuff on the way, and I'm very excited about it. Cannot wait. Until next time, be safe, God bless, and we'll rock soon.
It's the cutting edge of new music and the forefront of rock. It's Audio Inc. with Anne.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Audio Inc. Radio Podcast. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. Get inked online at audioinkradio.com. I'm Anne Erickson for the Audio Inc. Radio Podcast.